Okay, so today we will start with Dockerfile. So using which you can build custom container images. Okay. So after Dockerfile, so there are other topics as well. Like we need to understand, how Docker files are built in the new versions of Docker Desktop or Docker Engine that is using BuildX builders. Okay. So you also have something known as Docker Build Cloud. So where instead of building your Docker files in your local machine, so we will build in the VMs provided by Docker. Okay. That is remote build, right? And post that we also have sessions on optimizing the Docker files, like what all the best practices to follow while creating the Docker files, how to speed up your builds, what are multi-platform images, so what are multi-stage builds. Okay. So how do you parallelly build multiple, images? Okay. So there are a lot of things after this Docker file. Okay.
Last screen.
Sorry. Okay. Now let's understand, what is this Docker file and how to create images using Docker file. Okay. So let's say I want to build a custom image. So what is the usual process that we follow without using Docker files? So basically you can create a container, right? And then I can exec into the container. I mean, like I can start the bash process and, I can just copy my application, install all the dependencies. So now once my container is ready with all the applications, with application and all its dependencies, so we're going to just commit that container into a new Docker image. Correct. Right,
Yes.
guys? So this is
Yeah.
use of Docker commit. So you'll commit a container, so which will have all your dependencies into an image. Now, next time you'll start this image. But the problem with this approach is every time when there is a change in requirement, so you need to create a container again, you need to make modifications. Okay, and again commit it. Okay, so this is the issue. So we can use Docker files, basically, to avoid this. So what is Docker file is? It is nothing but build instructions file. It will have it is just a text file. I mean, of course, it is not .txt or any other format. So it is a simple file which will have all the build instructions to build your custom Docker image. Okay. So the file name would be capital D and then Docker file. So without any extensions. So of course you can use extensions like -dev or .dev. So depending upon your requirement. But the standard file name is just the Docker file. Okay. It is just a standard file name, but you can name it with anything. In fact, you can also use .txt also. Okay. Got it, guys? So
And
what
the
will
name should
this?
be always Dockerfile, is it?
No, no, that's what I said. No, you can name it anything.
Anything?
Okay,
Okay.
but this is a standard file. If you open VS Code, okay, and if you just use this as the standard name, so when you're writing the Docker file instructions, VS Code can give you suggestions, um, you know, uh, by detecting this name. But if you simply put small d, it is still Docker file, but VS Code may not detect the format of this file properly.
Okay. As a
Okay,
standard, we can make it as a
as a
Dockerfile.
standard, it is Docker file. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so basically this Docker file will have, a standard base image. On top of it, whatever dependencies or the application files you wanted to put. So all these will be available as instructions in the Docker file, like, which base image you choose, what all files you copy, what all dependencies you install. Okay, so these form part of your Docker file. Okay. So, but anyways, I'm going to show you a simple example. So a Docker example, a Docker file example can be this. Okay, it has a base image, and then you're copying some files into that image, right? And then installing some packages. Okay. So if you see, I just named the file as Docker file. So VS Code can also show the, these icons like this file type icon, and also whenever you're trying to type some command, right, or instruction, it can actually give you the suggestions on how to use that particular instruction. Okay, otherwise you can use any file name. Okay, so now this latest version of Docker Desktop or Docker Engine has this new command called Docker init, just like Git init. Okay, so this Docker init is relatively new command. So whenever you have a source code, okay, and if you have to containerize that particular source code as an image, okay, so you start with the Docker file, right? But using Docker init, you can automatically generate a Docker file or Docker compose, okay, in the same folder where you are, writing all your code. So what Docker init will do is it will automatically detect the programming language that you're using to code, and then it will write the Docker file for it. So if you see when I did Docker init, so it found that I think it has not detected anything because I've just executed this in some random folder. But if I have a folder with Golang code, and if I just do Docker init, it will actually detect the Golang code and it will just give it as a suggestions. Okay. Of course, you can also select from this list. Let's say I can select the Docker file for Node.js. So once you select this option, a Docker file, compose file will be created in your current directory, and you can use the Docker file as it is, or you can modify it. Okay. Clear, guys? But remember, this only works with the latest version of Docker Desktop or latest version of Docker. Okay. So if I have to see um, in our EC2 instance,
Vikram,
so
so that when the Docker will follow best practices when execute the Docker, right?
sorry.
I mean, so you said that it will automatically generate the Docker file, right?
Huh.
So by default, it will follow the best practices, or
Yeah, it will try to follow the best practices, but still you can optimize it further. Okay. So Docker init is not a command. Okay. So it is not available here in this version of whatever Docker that we have installed. I think it is only supported in Docker Desktop. Okay. I'll show you. I I think I already have. Yeah, I have Docker Desktop installed as I've shown last time, right? And if I open any terminal and if I do Docker init, okay, you can see this utility will walk you through the creating the following files like Docker file. Um, I'll tell you what is Docker ignore, Docker compose, and some README file. Okay, so this option is available in the Docker desktops. Okay, so now what can be the contents inside this Docker file? And one more thing is I highly suggest you go through the documentation. Okay, so every time when you're writing your Docker file, okay, so every time they'll try to come up with latest instructions or change in format of the existing instructions. Okay, so if you just go to these references in the docs.docker.com, so there is a CLI reference. Okay, sorry, this Docker file reference. Okay, you can see all the commands that are supported in the Docker file. Okay, so you can follow this step-by-step tutorial. It will describe everything like what should be your starting instruction. Okay, following all the best practices, right? Okay, so you have from instruction. Okay, so from means which base image you wanted to use to build your custom image. Okay, so maintainer or label. So this is metadata. So earlier that metadata, we used to provide through maintainer, but now it is replaced with label. So maintainer is deprecated. So label means it is like a metadata. Like you can add your name, email address, when did you modify the Docker file, any sort of data. Okay. copy. So copying means, so when you want some files to be there in the container image, so you copy some files from your local machine into the container image. That is copy. Run means if you want to run something inside the image. So not inside the image, ideally when you're trying to build a custom image, right? So you want to install some packages in it. So how do you install those packages is using run instruction. So if I say run apt install nginx, okay, so that nginx will be packaged, will be a part of that new image. Okay. Then there are arguments that you can pass while building the image. You can set some environment variables. Okay. You can enable some ports. Okay. Create some directories. Okay. And then you have CMD and entry point. I'm going to tell you because we already know what is CMD and entry point, right? So what is CMD and entry point?
It's a runtime instruction. So when we start a container,
So it is basically the command, okay, that your container executes or runs when it starts, right? It is like a starting command. Okay. And then you can also put some health check commands to your containers. But this is not being used anymore because so nowadays we deploy everything Kubernetes. So in Kubernetes, we have much better ways of checking the health of the application running inside the containers. Okay, so you have something known as liveness probe, readiness probe, startup probe. Okay, and then you have on build instruction. So that I'll tell you this at the end of the all these instructions. Okay, it will confuse you now. Okay, so we'll slowly start with each and every instruction. So first, whenever you're trying to build your own container image, right? So you need a base image, correct? Right, guys?
Yeah.
Because you can't just start from scratch, you need a base image. So what can be your base image? So that's the main question. Okay, so this decides so whether you actually tried optimizing the Docker image or you just copy pasted the Docker file from somewhere or you really know how to containerize your application or not. Okay, so let's say I'm trying to build a Python based application. So with Flask as some framework. Okay. So Python means, of course, I need to have Python installed. Let's say Python 3. So Flask means what I'll do, I'll use pip as the package manager to install this Flask based framework. Okay. But how do I make sure that first Python is installed? Okay. So there are multiple ways, right? So I can take base image as you want to, and then I can install Python on top of it. Correct? Right, guys?
yes,
Yes.
But what will happen to this particular final image size? So it will be, you know, too large. Let's say more than 500 MB or something like. Okay. The reason is you have Ubuntu based softwares or things in your image, plus you have Python. Okay. So I just require Python. So what if I look for a base image which is directly built with Python? I mean, so base image which is directly Python. Okay, so if you search for Python, you'll have Python latest and all that stuff, right? So comparing with the previous approach, okay, so using directly Python latest will give you much lesser size, let's say 100 MB or 300 MB size. Okay, because we have directly installed, we have directly taken Python as the base image. Okay, so this might have just Python based dependencies and nothing else. Okay, but latest means it will have all the latest features. Okay, that's the reason why it is uh, probably 300 MB. Okay, but I just require a base image that can run Python without any extra features. Okay, so that's when you search for Python based base image, but probably lesser in size. Probably look for Slim tag, Alpine tag, or search for Google distoless image that is based on Python, that is built for Python. Okay, so if you look at the Slim or Alpine images, they will be very small in size, let's say 50 MB. Okay, so you'll take that Slim or Alpine depending upon the requirement. Okay, and then that 50 MB will be the base image with Python, and on top of it, you'll basically install a Flask that might, probably add 50 MB of more. So your overall final image size will be even less than 150 MB. Okay. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So always, take time in selecting proper base image depending upon the requirement. Just don't build the image from scratch using Ubuntu or CentOS or anything from scratch. Okay. Always look for the images. Most of the times they will be available. Okay. So from means that's the current image, the base image. So now let's say I have from image. Okay. From instruction inside the Docker file. Okay. So how do I build the Docker file? Okay. So I'm just doing it in my Windows machine only. Okay. So I'll just create a file here. Okay. So don't worry about the other files because I'm going to share all those files with you. Okay. So already there is a Docker file available here. Okay, so this is for a different example. Okay, anyways, let me comment it out. Okay. So I have a single from instruction. So don't worry about all the other commands and all. So let's assume you have a complete Docker file. Okay, so how do you build this Docker file? Okay, so if you look at the Docker commands, Docker build. Okay, so you can pass, a lot of arguments, lot of flags. And also, if you look at this usage, Docker build x build. Okay. So when I just said build, why it is including build x, right? So basically this build x is pretty new, and this has now become a standard builder for all your Docker builds. So it has replaced the legacy builder. Okay, you don't have to worry about that now because your Docker build command, in order to use the latest build kit, okay, so you should actually use build x. Okay, but by default, Docker build is already using buildx in the latest version. So in the older version, if you have to use the latest buildx, you should include buildx as the command. But now Docker build itself uses buildx. Okay. So it might be confusing at this point of time, but I'm going to explain that in the coming sessions. Okay. So just understand Docker build or Docker image build is for building an image from the Docker file. So it can be image build as well. Okay, so Docker build. The thing here is, so once you build it, you need to tag the image, right? So which image name you will use? So let's say I'll use test as the name of the image, colon 1.0 as the tag. Okay, so this is fine. So to this Docker build, you're just saying once the image is built, you tag it with this. But which Docker file to be used for building the image? So that I have to provide, right? So that I can provide it -f, that is the file, and the name of the file, that is Dockerfile. Okay. And so there is one more requirement, that is build context. Okay. So I'll explain what is this build context. So it is just like where exactly is your Docker file located. So I'm already in my current directory. You can simply say $pwd, or you can simply say dot. So it is like build the image from the Docker file, which is there in the current location, and tag it with this particular name. So you can also use -f first and -d later. That is also fine. Okay. So what if I don't give the name of the file using -f? So it will always look for a file known as Dockerfile in the current location. That is with capital D, Dockerfile without any extensions. But if you have a Docker file with a different name, or with a different probably the extension, So .com doesn't make sense. So let me just put it as txt. Okay. So if you have a file with a different name, so then only you can use -f. Of course, you can use for standard Docker file, but that is not required. Okay. So when you execute this command, so you will see that okay. So why it has took a lot of time is I'll explain in build context. Okay. See, actually, it is trying to pull whatever image I have in the from instruction, and then you can see it has created a new image, that is test 1.0. Okay, so which is of size 194 MB. Okay, so if you see this instruction, so this is just a from instruction of a base image. Okay, so if you build this custom image, it will be of the same size, okay, of this Docker image. Got it? Because it is a single instruction, it is nothing but you're trying to rename this image with this name, nothing else. Right, guys? Any questions?
Become one question. So when that from statement executes, how does the file knows where to look for that image? And where does it look for that image by default?
It will look in the local system. If it is not there, it will pull from the Docker Hub.
So it's always Docker Hub. If you want to change
Mm,
that, can we do
If
that?
you give a proper URL that is pointing to other registry, then it will pull from that other
Okay.
registry. Okay.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So that is from instruction. Sorry, that is how we build a Docker file. Now let's understand what is this Docker build. Okay. So the Docker build command, as you see, it is located in a path. Okay. So I'm inside this training Docker files, which I'm going to share. So inside this, it has a lot of information, like a lot of folders and all. And inside that, you have a Docker file. Okay, so this whole thing becomes the context. Okay, so the current path, okay, becomes the build context for the Docker build. So ideally, what will happen is once you issue this Docker build command, so along with the Docker file, I mean, all the files and folders in the current path will be sent to the daemon for building your image. Okay. And if you see this particular Docker file, it is doing nothing other than pulling an image from the Docker Hub. Okay. But as a context, it is sending this entire data to the daemon. That's the reason when I try to, build this Docker file, if you see first time, it took a lot of time, right? Because it has spent time sending the data to the daemon. Okay. But do I require all this data now? It's not required, right? Because I'm just using a simple from instruction. I'm not trying to copy anything. Okay. So that's the reason why. So we should never put Docker file in some root locations or somewhere, okay, where you have other content. So every time, I'll try to put the Docker file into a folder. So where, other than Docker file, you don't have anything. I mean, anything in the sense you can have your source code and other files, but not the other things like this. Like I can't, copy paste this Docker file into slash of the file system, because now slash becomes the build context. So that entire build context, that is entire your root information, okay, so will be sent to the daemon. It is not required. Now let's say this is the Docker file, right? So I'll change the uh, instruction of the Docker file. I'll say from event. Okay, so now let me just try to build it with the same command. Okay, so this time if you see, it is much faster because this directory itself is empty. Okay, other than Dockerfile, it doesn't have anything. So it doesn't have to, you know, send any other data to the Docker daemon while building. Clear, guys?
Vikram,
Yeah,
okay, so this is a new image. Okay.
Okay, so this is new image. I mean, I'm
Vikram,
using the same tag.
Vikram,
1 second. I'm using the same tag. Okay, so but I'm building a different image. Okay, yes, please.
yeah, Vikram. So you're saying that a build context, it has to be downloaded for every type of application, like a Python
Now,
or.
build context here in the sense it is the current directory.
Oh, okay,
Okay, so that current directory will have the Docker file and then all your source code and other stuff. Okay, so not like other things which are not part of your Docker file. Like I can't put images, video files, and all that inside a folder where this Docker file is there, right?
right.
Okay, and
But you said
also,
all these folders you'll be sharing with us, right?
yeah, depending upon the requirement. I mean, once I teach a particular application, I'll share. Okay. And now if you open Docker desktop, right? So Docker desktop has this new, builds option. Okay. So where you can see, so whether your builds are failing or, passing, this is for your Docker desktop. You don't have to worry about understanding this. Okay. I'm just showing you because, I have Docker desktop installed. Okay. You have builds here and then, you can see which Docker file you built recently. Okay, so I built a Docker file from the scratch. Okay, and then there is this builder, which is a new information. So build completed in 7.3 seconds. Okay, I think you can also click on this and see your Docker file here. Okay, your logs can be seen here. Okay,
So this
history
is
of
on
the
your
image.
this is on your laptop
Yes,
or on
this is
the VM,
on no on my laptop.
and you get connected to the EC2 instance
No,
or the
that is a
Docker.
different thing. Okay, let me close it for time being. Okay, this is running on my Windows.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see what is your real time. Okay. So time spent for transferring local files. Okay. You can see complete information, whether it has used the cache or not. So this is a latest edition. Okay. So how many steps are executed in parallel if you have a Docker file? You get this entire information. Okay. This is your Docker file and this is your logs. Got it, guys? Okay. So this is about the Docker build information in Docker desktop. So and this is your build context. So build context means so the path where your Docker file is existing, you can call it as build context. So that is the content that your client can send to the daemon for building your image. Okay, so you should never put that Docker file at the root of the file system like on slash, because now that slash becomes the build context. Okay. And not only that, so let's say your Docker file is available in a location. So where you have other folders like SRC, target, output, and all. Okay. So here when I try to build my Docker image, okay, I only require this SRC pom.xml file. Okay. I don't require this output folder, target folder to be sent to the daemon because anyways, I don't use them inside my Docker image. Okay. But as a build context, since these are there in this path, they will also be sent. In many cases, these target folders will be quite high in size, like 500 MB, 1 GB, etc. So how do I just stop these files from being copied, to the daemon as a build context? So use Docker ignore. I'll simply put Docker ignore. Inside this Docker ignore, I'll just say ignore target and output folder from being copied to the Docker daemon. Okay, so how do you write the Docker ignore file? The same way you write the git ignore file. So if I open Docker ignore file, I will write like this, like target slash and output slash. So I'll say or I can also put double star slash output slash. So which means I'm saying don't include target folder, don't include output folder when you're trying to send the context to the daemon. So this will significantly, speed up your build process. Got it?
Yes.
Now coming to the from instruction. Okay, as we already discussed, from will be from will just select a base image. Okay, using which you will create your own custom image. Okay, so from Ubuntu latest. So this will make Ubuntu latest as the base image. Okay, so I'll also talk about some optimization techniques, when we talk about Docker files only. Okay, so never take Ubuntu latest as the tag. Okay, so why I say never take Ubuntu latest or latest as the tag? Okay, let's say in 2023, so you have used a Docker file saying Python latest, and then you have a lot of instructions. Okay, you built the image, I'll say test 1.0, and then you deployed it. Okay, so the application is running. So the next year, 2024, you took the same Docker file and built it as test 2.0, and then you created a container, and the container is now failing. So what could be the reason? So I did not change the Docker file. I just try to rebuild it. Okay, because I lost the old image, so I built it from the same Docker file, but this time it is not working.
Version.
Version, yes. So Python latest means, so whenever, let's say in 2023, so Python's version is Python 3.8. So when they try to push Python 3.8 version, okay, and Python 3.8 is the current version, so they'll also retag it with latest as the tag, which means latest and 3.8 both are same, and then they push it. The reason why they use Python latest tag is so when people use latest, so it will download the latest tag. So they don't have to go to the registry and then see which is the latest one and all. Okay. So which means in 2023, so this latest tag is pointing to 3.8. Probably in 2024, this latest tag might point to Python 3.112. Okay. Correct?
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. So which means it can break your source code. Your source code may not support that particular latest version of your image. That's the reason why always tag it. If you're using 3.8, just tag it with 3.8. Don't use latest. Okay. So from instruction should be a first instruction in your Docker file ideally. But you can also use commands. Let's say hash something. So hash something becomes your command. Or you also have parser directive. So this is latest edition. Okay, so parser edit directives means I'll show you what is the meaning of this in the next slide. And argument. So these three can be before your from instruction. So one is your command, one is your parser directives, and the other one is arg. So commands, parser directives, people they do not use it, but you can use arguments. Okay, so why arguments are required is, so let's say, I have, a base image to be mentioned here. So what I'll say is, I'll say from Ubuntu. So instead of just putting 3.8 or something like hard-coded tag, so what I'll do is, I'll say argument. The name of the argument is tag. You can use tag or tag name, whatever. Okay. And then I'll set it as latest, or let's say 3.8. And then use this tag here, and I'll call that name using the usual syntax. That is, here I'll put tag underscore name. Okay, so what will happen to this from instruction? So it is from Ubuntu colon. The tag argument is 3.8. So it is still 3.8. But why I have used argument? Okay, why it should be in two lines? So why can't I simply write Ubuntu 3.8? Why should I go for argument and then set tag name to 3.8? Then why should I make it to replace here? So why I should follow these two instructions, which I can directly do it in a single instruction. Okay, so these arguments are called as basically build time arguments. Okay, so the meaning of build time arguments is, okay, so for example, I'm using this. I'm saying argument tag is set to latest. Okay, again from Ubuntu colon dollar tag, which means this will be latest, right? Because I mentioned tag as latest. Okay, and when I'm trying to build, I can actually replace this tag using hyphen build arg, which means build arguments. Tag I'm setting to rolling. Okay, let's say our tag I'll set it to 3.8. Now this tag, the default is latest, but I'm overriding it when I'm building it with 3.8. So this will become Ubuntu 3.8. Okay, so it is just to give an option to the user, for overriding the particular tag, I'm using build argument. So in case if this tag is not given during the build, I've already set the tag to be latest, so the default one will be assumed. So just don't put argument tag and then leave. So if you leave like this, what will happen is every time it will expect a tag to be provided. Okay, so always make sure that if someone is not providing, so always try to set a default one which Dockerfile can assume. Okay, so that is tag. So we'll try to understand from tag and parser directives in a single example. So what are these parser directives is, if I have to go through the official documentation, so these are actually optional. Okay, so if I see the command, so command means hash, you can write any command. Okay, similarly parser directives also use the same syntax, that is hash and followed by key equal to value. Okay, so these parser directives are actually optional. Okay, so you can put these parser directives at the beginning, and then it will impact the way how your Docker files are handled. Okay, so they'll be in the form of key equal to value. Okay, but we are more interested in a single parser directive, that is syntax parser. Okay, so it is key and the overall thing is value. So what is the syntax parser is? It will help you decide so which version of Docker file you're currently writing, and which one your Docker daemon should take. Okay, so for example, let's say I try to write some instructions. Okay, all the latest ones, but when I try to build it, it won't run. Okay, so let me just clean all these things. Let's say I used um, some new, you know, Dockerfile instructions, but when I'm trying to build it, it is not working. The reason why it is not working is that form of instructions or the syntax is yet not known to your Docker builder. Okay, so Docker builder might be considering an old syntax of Dockerfile. Okay, so if you want your Docker daemon to consider the latest version of the Docker file, so this is the syntax you need to use. Now, what will happen if you use this syntax is, so every time when you try to build a Docker image, so your build kit, also known as builder daemon, will try to pull the latest version of Dockerfile syntax from the internet. Okay, so it will know uh, why you're using that syntax, whether it is supported or not. Okay, because it is now following the latest version of Dockerfile syntax, and you're also using latest Dockerfile instructions, so it will work. So this is the only parser directive that I'm interested in. Other than that, you don't have any relevant parser directives. Even so, we never used to teach about this. This is the latest edition. I'll tell you when this is useful. Okay, in the coming examples. Now I have Ubuntu, as I already said. I cannot use the tag like this. Or let me take a simple Python. Okay, so instead of hard coding the tag like Python 3.8, something like this, what I'll do is I'll use tag. Okay, tag can be the instruction before from. So never say that you cannot use any instruction before from. You can use comment syntax parser directives, and then you have tag. Okay. So argument tag. So tag or any name. So here I'm setting a default value as latest. And now let's put it as 3.8 here. And then let's replace this. Call it as tag. Okay. Now let's try to build it. It's same Docker build. Name, Docker file to consider. Dot is the build context. Okay. What is this hyphen T? It is for tagging. Correct? Let's
Yes.
run it. Okay, so it takes Python 3.8.
Vikram, in the past directories, that colon 1 represents the latest you said, right? So
Colon.
1:1, Dockerfile colon 1 in the past directory syntax.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you know what all versions are available? I mean, version 2, version 3, like colon 1 represent latest. So
Now
how do
colon one, I think it is a syntax they have. I also don't know from where your builder is pulling it.
and that I mean that line doesn't depend upon my current Docker installation, right? It just
Nothing, I think. If you want to use the latest version, just use that parser directive. No need to understand like from where
Okay.
it is taking and all. Okay, inside the repository they might be having it, but it's not required.
Okay.
Okay, so now you can see you have test 1.0 again, that is built. Okay, so test 1.0 is now 998 MB. Because Python 3.8 probably it is 3998 MB. Okay, which is very high. Let me also check for the other slim tags for Python.
Every time I create a new tag, the existing tag image which is on my local get replaced, right?
Yeah,
If we use, okay.
I will search for probably slim. Okay, I can take this 3.7. But the thing is, I don't want to replace it directly here. So what I'll do is, as a build argument, -build -arg. So tag is an argument, right? That is the name of the argument that is set. So I'm just replacing it with this. And also, so there is another flag which I can put at the end or anywhere. -no cache, I think. So what this will do is, it will not take the cache into consideration. It will try to build everything from a cache. Okay. So now you can see here which image it is trying to pull, the one which we gave as a tag. Okay. Clear, guys? So that is the advantage of using, build arguments.
So Vikram,
You can see one. Yeah.
yeah. So you said that whenever we are trying to use latest, right? So Docker by default pulls the latest image every time because it constantly changes, right? So we
Yeah,
cannot
every
depend
time.
on cache for that.
No. If that, see, Python latest means it is nothing but Python 3.8.
Okay.
They just retagged it for that, the latest push. So when I have 3.9, I'll push it with 3.9 and also latest.
Okay. So that
Okay,
time,
latest means it is 3.9. If
okay.
3.9 is already downloaded, Even if you try to again pull it through latest tag, it won't download because all the layers are already downloaded.
Okay.
It's not like you're using latest, it will download every time.
Okay.
Okay. If see it always checks the layers. If layers are there, it is there.
Okay. But when we are providing that no cache, it won't use any of the layers.
So these are local build cache.
Okay.
Okay. So for a single or couple of instructions, it is not useful. Okay. So later on, when you have tens of lines, if 5 lines are not changing, Dockerfile won't build those lines again. I'll come to it. So we have a separate session for that as well on how to optimize it.
How come the size is 128, Vikram, now?
Because it is slim version. The
I
tag
mean,
has changed.
in the Docker Hub, it shows 48 only, right?
No, see, that is the compressed image. So once you pull, it will change.
Okay.
You are talking about this, right?
Yeah,
So you can
yes.
see this is compressed size. So the size is calculated by summing the image layers which are compressed. Not see, when you pull it, all the layers will be extracted, right? It won't be in the compressed format.
Okay. And build context has nothing to do with size, right? It's just how fast your build is done. That's it.
Build context is the
How
path.
fast
No.
building.
Build context is the path where your Docker file is there.
Yeah, I mean, if I put only Dockerfile, it will improve
It
the
will be faster because you're not
Yeah.
actually copying in it.
Yeah, it has no effect on the size of the image, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Now you have maintainer tag. Maintainer tag is deprecated. Okay, so this is used to maintain some metadata like maintainer space. You can put your name and all. So this I won't cover. So you have labels. So labels are metadata that you add to an image. So once you put some labels, you can see those labels when you inspect an image. Okay. So the common labels are who wrote the Docker file, their email address, which project. So it's all metadata. So let me go to the reference. Label. See, maintainer deprecated. Now label. Okay, so you can see the vendor, ACM incorporated, some version, some description. Okay. So if you have multi-lines, you can just put backslash and you can add. So I'm just adding all these layers, all these labels to my image. Okay. So now I'll build it again. So these labels and all will not change the image size that much. Okay. And our image is built. So let me inspect it. Docker image inspector, Docker inspect directly. Okay, you can see here these labels are available in the image. Okay, it is just a metadata that I'm adding. Okay, so now copy instruction. So did we cover everything else? Okay, arguments we covered, maintain and label we covered. Okay, so now the most important instruction. So that is copy instruction. Okay, so what all files you can copy into your image? That's the first thing, right? Correct. What files can be part of Docker image, by the way? Can I put my source code inside it?
No,
No.
no source code, no exes, no installables.
Binary files.
Only binary files. But the thing is, like for Python or other files, for other things, I have to copy the files, Python files, even though those are source files, I have to copy them, correct? And again, when Python has to install something, right? So if I have a file which will have all the dependencies, then I have to copy those files. Okay, again, it's a requirement. It is based on the requirement. Okay, let's assume. So this is a simple Python based. So I need these instructions. So let me do one thing. So let me just copy it outside as a backup. Okay, so leave about that again. So let me clean up this. Clean up some. Okay. So I have argument from label like this. Okay. And remember one thing. So this arg from and label, all these are Dockerfile instructions which are in capital letters. So this is not a standard. You can also use small letters, but Docker recommends you use all caps. Okay. So that, all your third-party tools and all can actually detect all these, uh, instructions. Okay. So after label, see, you don't have to give any spaces just you know, for this demo, I'm just giving all these spaces so that you can easily see the instructions. It is not required. Okay. So we will concentrate only on this scratch folder. So let me do one thing. Let me just open that single folder and close the other things. Otherwise, it will confuse you a lot. So I have just a single Docker file. Okay. Now I'm trying to create some files. Let's say main.py. Okay. And this main.py, and always try to, if you are interested, you can use ChatGPT and all when you're writing the Docker files to optimize and all. Okay. So I'll say simple Flask app. I'm trying to create a simple API. Okay. So this is the API. Just a second. I'm just taking this piece of code. You don't have to understand this. And also let me see what all things I have to install. I have to install this pip install Flask. Okay. So where should I install this Flask? That's the first question, right? So I want this app to be running inside my container. So this app should be there inside my container, right, guys?
Yes, Vikram.
Okay. So this Flask and all, I need to install in my image when I'm trying to build it. Okay, so it is now building from Python. On top of it, I need to install that Flask. Okay, so there are a couple of ways. So the first way is pip install Flask, directly giving the instruction like that. Okay, so let me also let me create a simple text file. Okay, I'll put this instruction for now. Okay, so this is just a text file. We won't use it in the application. Okay, so instead of doing this, I also have another option called pip install. Okay, but why are we talking about this now? Okay, so let me just ignore it for now. It's not required. Okay, so I want to copy this file into my container. Okay, correct? Because my container has to run it. So now when you see your custom image, you just took Python base image, but that image still don't have your main.py or the application files. So what I have to do is I have to use copy instruction. Okay. So copy from your local machine to the destination. You can see copy from source to the destination. Okay. So what are the files I'll copy? I'll simply copy main.py file. So where exactly I wanted to copy. So let's say I wanted to copy into /temp of the new image file system. Got it? Clear, guys?
So it's the
Where
destination.
WORKDIR, mention it here. Yeah, so it is the source and it is the destination. Okay. So sometimes people will
You're using
actually
a base
put,
image called Python. So will it
yes.
have a /temp folder?
See, this is another thing which I'm going to clear in just 10-15 minutes. Okay. So I have a slide So this slash temp may or may not exist, right? That's your question, correct?
Yes.
If you see in many Docker files, right? So they'll simply say copy dot space dot. Okay. So what is this dot and dot is? So this dot means it is your local file system's current directory. This dot means it is the new image, some location. Dot means that particular location. But still dot is not known there, right? On the container file system. Because in local file system, I know this is the path. Correct. So if I simply use this as a copy instruction, it will actually solve, right? Because I don't know where it is copying, but it is still copying. Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So copy dot can be used. So if you know the destination location, but how to set that destination location. So that is one more thing. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just skip a few instructions and I'll go to something known as WORKDIR. Okay. So what is this WORKDIR? So WORKDIR is nothing but it is a working directory. Okay. So working directory means so you switch to a directory and that becomes your base directory now. So from there only all the instructions will take the reference. Like your copy can take the reference, add can take the reference, entry point, CMD, run. So they all take that particular location as the you know what do you say, a standard location. Okay. So how to use this WorkDR and what exactly it will create. So even before you copy something, you want to know where exactly you're copying into the container file system. So for this, I'll use WorkDIR. Okay. In many Docker files, they'll use slash app. Okay. Some will use user src, something like that. Okay. So it is all dependent on you. Okay. So when you say WorkDIR slash app, so this slash app becomes your, you can say, so whenever you're logging into any shell, okay, so what is your standard location? What will be your, the default path that you log in into? So if you see, it is always your home directory. Okay. So now this WorkDiary is slash app becomes the work directory. But what if slash app is not there? So WorkDiary is going to create it. So it will create the slash app from the root file system. Now, whenever you're trying to copy main.py or any file from your local machine, and if you simply put dot, so dot means current directory. Now current directory is slash app because you have set it here. It is just like it will, create this directory and also it will cd into it. Okay. Clear, guys?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Vikram.
So now the current directory is slash app. So whatever you're copying, okay, whatever you're running, okay, so whatever CMD or entry point you're using, so it will always check this as the standard path, okay, or the default or the current path. Okay. Of course, they can look files from anywhere else, but it is the, the default one. Now, WorkDIR can be multiple instructions. So let's say if I use WorkDIR, okay, um, something like main here. Okay. So this WorkDIR main, so what it's saying should be absolute, or let's say, I think in the latest version they are giving error. One second, guys. It's not like that. I think they changed it. Yeah, I think they changed. So now this is not supported. Okay, so what is this meaning of giving simply instead of slash app, if you directly give app, this is not working anymore. Okay, so where exactly this app gets created and set as the work directory is, let's say this Python base image, whatever you're taking. So they have the current path as slash. That's the default path. Okay. Then this WorkDIR app will create from that slash location. So it will still be slash app. So for example, this base image is now considering slash var as their default path or default or the the default shell location. Okay. So now when I do WorkDir app, see, I'm not using slash, so it won't create from the slash. So it will create from slash var only. It will be slash var slash app. Okay. But since that location is not known to me, I always try to create from slash directly here itself. And if I use another WorkDir directory called slash main, so what will happen to my current directory now? Is it slash app slash main?
No,
Yes,
slash
Vikram.
main.
No,
Slash
it is
main.
slash main only. Because here, if you say I'm starting from root, right? If I remove the slash, then this would be slash app slash main. Correct. But these instructions are not supported anymore. Okay. I think they have removed them. Where is this? WorkDir. Okay. See here, they used to support, but I don't know now why it's not working. But anyways, we don't use it. But I simply wanted to show you that if you already have WorkDir slash A, so the current path where you are in is slash A because it will mkdir slash A and cd into slash A. And then if you use WorkDir B, so you're already in A, so it will be slash A slash B. And if you have put C, what will happen? Slash A slash B slash C. So that will be your path. Understood, guys?
So what is the use of
So for
mentioning
example,
multiple paths?
yeah, there is no use in case if you want to, change paths like this. Okay. So for example, let's say WorkDir, after this, you run some instructions and then you again change the path, you run some instructions. For that, they have used it.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So here, if already you have slash A, okay, you will be in slash A. And then if you try to create just B, it will be from here. Again, if you create C, it will be here. Okay. But if I use slash everywhere, okay, so first you try to create slash A, and again you try to create slash B, and again you try to create slash C. So the current path inside a container is always slash C. Got it? So let me quickly prove this. Okay, I won't copy anything. So let me put the WorkDir to just slash A. Okay, and let's try to build this image. I'll tell you the difference. So Docker build -d test and then dot. So I'm building test latest and I asked it to take the Docker file from the current path. Okay. Because I've not given any -f. The name is with the standard file. It is now trying to pull this Python 3.8 tag. Okay. It says no such host. What happened? I think see it is trying to just pull the latest version of Docker file. Then it failed. Now it is successful. I think some network issue. Okay, so we build this test latest. So let me run it. So Docker run -it and the name I'll also use -rm. The name of the image is test latest. And I'm trying to start the bash process. Let's assume. Okay, I'm directly going into. See now what is my current path?
Yes, slash.
Okay. So this is use of WorkDir. Okay, so now coming to copy. So I wanted to copy the files, okay, into my container file system. So I'll just take main.py and then if I use dot, so this will be copied into slash app. Okay. Otherwise, you can also put slash app, but it doesn't make sense because you already set WorkDir. Okay, so you will simply put dot. If I use dot and dot, what will happen is, So this complete folder will be copied into .e/app. So whatever files you have, they will be copied into that /app. So let me also quickly prove it. Then we can quickly see the other instructions without any these small demos. Okay, so I built it. Now I'm starting the bash process. So I'll be taken to /app, and then if I do ls-l, you will see whatever files I have inside the container file system, right?
Yes.
So ideally, this Docker file and all, I don't have to copy. I'm interested in only main.py. So there are a couple of ways. There are multiple ways you can write these copy instructions. I can simply say just copy main.py file, just like this. Or I can simply say just copy star.py into that. Okay. So let's say I have a folder. Let's say I have a folder like src. Inside this src, let's say I have something known as db dot db.py. So I wanted to copy that src directory. So just copy the src into this /. Okay. Like this. And you have other syntaxes for copy. Okay. Like I can also copy a complete folder contents into a folder. Okay. Understood, guys? And then I can copy multiple files. If you see here, I'm copying config1.cfg from my local machine, config2.cfg from my local machine into a destination called my app config/. So inside this, you'll find config2 and config1. Okay. I can use wildcard entries like this. It is also there. Okay. So can I use multiple copy instructions inside my Docker file? Yes, I can put multiple copy instructions. Okay. But the thing here is every instruction adds a new layer. So make sure that uh, you use all the instructions only if they are required. Okay. If you can copy all the entire source code at once, it is fine. Okay. So I'll also talk about one optimization technique. Okay. So what is that optimization technique is, let's say, I'll create a file known as requirements.txt. Okay, so this will have all the requirements for my application to run. This is, this is only for Python. Okay, so not for every programming language. Okay. Now this requirement.txt, it won't change often. Okay. But my main.py file and all will change often because that is the active development. So I'll go back to my Docker file. So what I should do ideally is, so when you want some files to be copied into the Docker image, okay, or do some process or run some instructions inside the Docker image, always make sure that the instructions which do not change often, put at the start of the Docker file itself. Okay. So the meaning is here, the argument, the from instruction labels, WORKDIR, these will not change often. And this requirements.txt file, okay, if I simply say copy everything like this, okay, so what will happen is, whenever there is a change in main.py file, okay, so your requirements.txt file will also, get copied again because you're just trying to copy everything in a single go. But what if I use requirements.txt separately? And then I just copied it. Okay. So did some instructions. Okay. Executed some instructions. And then I copy my src or my main application files that I have. So what is the advantage of breaking the Docker file like this is, see, till this point, right? Copying the requirements.txt and installing it. So it will be common for all the builds, correct? Because this requirements.txt file won't change often. Got it, guys?
Yes.
Okay, then I can copy all the files that change often. So what will happen is, if I build the image now, so it will build all the layers. The next time when I try to change this main.py file and try to rebuild it, so your Docker file will try to compare the cache, and then it will see that till 10, all the instructions are pretty standard. They are not changed. So Docker will try to use the cache. So it will only try to rebuild the image from this point. So this will significantly improve your build speed. So what if I just copy all my files in one go? So what will happen in this case is, every time when you have main.py file change, since you're copying it into the new image, all the instructions after this will also repeat, even though they don't depend on main.py file. Okay, clear, guys? Okay, so always try to speed up the builds by reusing the layers. Okay, so don't put the things that change often at the beginning of Docker file. So that is copying section. So you're copying something from your local machine, into the Docker image. So for now, let me also,
Vikram, so
yes,
yeah, so while copying these files should be present within this build context, right?
correct.
It should not be present outside this build context.
Yeah, but there are other options as well.
Okay.
I'll tell with the add. So with add, you can also bring in all the files from a Docker repository. Okay. So you can also mount some files using run instruction that is also there. So that
Okay.
is not most used, but with add, you
Yeah.
can actually
No,
do
that
that
the best practice is that those files should be present within the build
in the build
context.
context. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now add command. So add command is just like your copy command. It will take a file from a local machine. It can be a file or it can be directory from your local machine, and it will copy into the container file system. But add has other features as well. So if your file is there in some remote location, it can also copy that file from that remote location into your container file system. Okay, it can also extract the content. Let's say you have app.tar file. Okay, when it is actually getting copied, it will actually untar it and copy. Okay, and also it can download the files from a remote location, and also it can put that into the container file system. Okay, so you have these three other advantages. So one is it copies file from your local machine, just like your copy command. Add can also download content from URL into your container image. It can also copy a tar file and then extract it after it copies. Okay, so these are the extra two features. But add is not preferred because, see, with copy, I know what exactly I'm copying. Like I have a choice whether to copy the entire folder or a few files. But with add, since you're downloading from a remote location or adding the files from a zip format or an archive format, you never know what content you're trying to copy, right? Correct, guys?
Like
Yes,
using add,
Vikram.
we can't give the specific location where the particular
Location
file
we
is.
have, but what if I don't have access to that location where I can see the content? Of course, I will have the access. It would be a public URL. Okay, so what if the content is unknown? What if I'm copying a malicious content? Correct. Okay, so that's the reason it is always suggested to use your copy command. So you instead of this copy, you can also use add command. It will also work in the same way. Okay, but add as an extra feature, that is, you can also download from the internet and then copy. So if you see what I'm trying to do is, so I'm trying to copying a GitHub repository into dot means slash up, because it is within the container file system. So this will be your source and dot will be your destination. If you want to know add and that Git repository, so here is the reference. This is from where I have taken. Okay. So the reason why I've taken this is, see, if I just go to this repository, so this repository has a Docker file, and once I clone it, this becomes the context, right? And then inside it, I have a Docker file. Okay. So this is the Docker file I have. Got it. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to basically, clone this entire content into the image using the add. Okay. So let me try to rebuild this image. Okay. So WORKDIR /app, and then it will add that content or the Git content into the /app location. Okay, so it has done. Oh, I did not save the Docker file. 1 second, guys. That's why it is not. I'll save and run it again. Okay, you can see it has run this WORKDIR. So the reason why it is using cache is, see, already we have executed those instructions, right, guys? Correct?
So,
Okay, so
Correct.
now I'll exit
Like instead
into
of
the
using, instead of using .main.py, we are just getting cloning ARG.
correct. So we are actually using add to clone a repository directly into the that image. But the problem with this is, see, directly I cannot use. I should employ multi-stage builds and all. Okay. The reason is, see, I don't have the binary. I just copied an entire Git repository. I don't have the binary. I don't have anything. I just have the source code, pom.xml file. Again, I need to pack my application and all, right?
Right.
So once I pack it again, that size will be more because SRC is there, POM is there, all dependencies get downloaded into the image itself, and then your source code is exposed and all. Okay, so this I just give because you have an option to add files from the Git repositories as well, but you can't directly build and use the image. You should employ multi-stage builds. I'll tell you the concept later. Clear, guys?
uh, can't like you gave like keep Git directory, right? Here it directly copied the files only, right? I mean, can't we get the directory name and insert that the files here?
Which one?
I mean, you gave the repo directory here. You kept directory equal to true, right? So maven employee hyphen web hyphen application directory will not be created. I mean, when we clone a Git repo,
Yeah, so that won't be created. If you set it to false, that will be cloned as a repository. I don't want to clone the repository with its name. I just want to clone it with the, what do you say?
full
Um,
contents.
yeah,
Friends.
okay. So that is add. So mostly we don't use add unless it is highly required to download something from the internet. Okay, so we will try to complete this run instruction and then we'll close the session. So what is this run instruction will do? Okay, so let's assume, let me take, so we can continue from here using this add instructions, but let me comment this out for now. Okay, because we are trying to understand this Python. Okay, so we need to copy this main.py file. Okay, so inside the Docker file, I'll say copy main.py file. But the thing is, I need to copy requirements.txt file as well. I'll simply put dot and dot, so both files get created. Now it's my responsibility to install all the instructions, right? Okay. So let's say I wanted to install Nginx and all. Okay, that uses apt, but I'm running a Python-based application and all its dependencies have to be installed using pip. So pip also has an option to install the dependencies by reading from a file like this. And this file is, already being copied into, the container file system. So pip has to run this command called pip install -r requirements.txt file. This has to be executed, okay, to download those dependency. Okay, so but how do you run this? So it is usually run using a from instruction. So I'm saying run this command. Okay, it is just like running any command. Let's say if I use this add to add the Git repository that is based on Maven. Now, how do I build Maven? So it is MVN package, right? Correct?
Right.
So this is the command. Always remember, it gets executed when you're building the image. It is not part of your container runtime, what do you say, command. So what is runtime command that container considers? It is only CMD or the entry point. Got it? So run is used only when you're trying to build an image. Clear?
So -r, what is this in this?
-r means it's like recursively download everything from this text document. So this is related to Python. This has nothing to do with the Dockerfile.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if the requirement.txt is exists in some other folder, right? So that path we need to specify.
That path, because we are already copying into dot is already /app. Okay. Already it is like we did CD into that app /app. Okay. So requirement.txt, we copied into that path. So you're already there in that path.
If suppose
That's
that
the reason
path is
WORKDIR
exists
is
in,
mandatory. No, because see, I did not copy that file into anywhere, right? In the first place.
correct. Maybe
If
if
you
we
have
have
it
any
into, you just put
submodule.
it. You just put the path.
Okay.
Okay, that's the reason why I always said WORKDIR. So you know exactly where you're copying and from where your commands are taking those instructions. Okay. Now I'll just run this run command, for this Python. Then we will see for what will happen if I use for add. Okay. So Python, see, it copied everything and then it is now running this a command. Okay, so now the test.txt is test.latest image is built. If I do ls-l, you will see that src test requirements.txt main.py file. Now I can easily run this main.py file. Okay. If you see, it is running because I have run pip install requirements.txt. Okay, it has now started my application. Okay, so I don't have any issues running my application. Okay, clear, guys? So what if I don't use this? Let's say I just added my what do you say, the entire Git repository, okay, into this. So now it is based on Maven, right? Run. So I should obviously do MVN package. Correct. Right, guys? To package my application. Any questions?
No, Vikram, not really.
Just a second. Okay. But will it actually work? It won't. Now tell me why it won't work. I know that this will fail use at run instruction.
Like
The
it doesn't
package should be there, right?
Maven package.
it doesn't
Maven
know.
should be there.
Maven
Yeah,
should
Okay,
Maven
so
package
you
should be there.
selected Python. So Python will not have MVN. Then what you need to take? You need to search for.
Maven base image.
Okay. So
Maven
that
based image.
too.
Or we can install Maven on top of it, right?
Yeah, but again, that will increase the size. Okay. I always prefer, okay. So you have a lot of tags. Say Maven 3.9, which is based on OpenJDK 8. Okay. So you need a proper tag. Okay. It's entirely up to you. So which one you will choose? Again, it all depends upon, so which version of
We can't
Java the project uses.
we can't use requirements for requirements.txt.
No, no, requirement.txt, as I said, it is for Python. But what is our requirements.txt for Maven? It is POM.
Okay.
So POM is where you're mentioning all the dependencies. Okay. So where did I go? This one, right? Let's say I'll use this. Okay, so tag, I'll just put it here. And then I'll just change it as Maven. Okay. Now try to build it because now our base image has changed. So base image will be downloaded. So entire, it's a completely new image. Everything will be downloaded again. So now it is running MVN package. Okay. It has done everything. If I try to run it, um, you will see a target folder inside it as usual. LSFNL target folder. You will have this WAR file. Clear? But look at the issue that we have. If I do Docker images, so we have this test 1.0. So how much is the size of the image? 998, right, guys?
Yes.
So what if I, try to check the target folder into that in the image? What is the size of your application?
5.4 MB.
5 MB, but your image is 998 MB. Do you think that it is the image, it is an optimized image?
No.
No, right? So first thing you need to understand what increases the size of the image. Okay, so let me do ls-lh here. If you see the target folder, this is fine. Okay, so this has taken 11 MB, that is fine. Okay, so probably the other things like the base image can also be an issue. So let me just see by manually trying to pull the base image. Let's see how much is the actual size of the base image. So are we using see, it is just 119, but when we pull it, let's see how much it is doing. It is 244, but still on top of 244, if you just add that 5 MB of WAR file, okay, and some dependencies, but still it will be much lesser than 998 MB, right? Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so which means somewhere you're doing a mistake. Okay, so you'll understand it later. Okay, so not now because we need to understand the multi-stage builds in order to understand how to optimize this in a better way. Okay, slowly we'll go to that. Okay, so for now let's understand this run. So run is basically it will run some instructions during the build time of the container. Don't say runtime of the container because in many interviews, people just ask this question: what is the difference between run and CMD, or run or entry point? Run will only run during the image creation process. CMD or entry point will run during the container runtime. Okay, clear? Got
Can
it,
we
guys?
be? Yeah.
Can you say it again?
Run is to customize your image by running
Okay.
some commands. Okay.
Okay.
So if I say run apt-get install iputils ping, it will install ping during the image creation process, which means your image has ping now, ping utility. It doesn't mean if you start that image as a container, it will initiate ping command. It's not like that.
Okay.
But if I say command cmd set to ping 8.8.8, that cmd gets executed when you run that image as a container. But that cmd doesn't get executed when you try to build the container image using Docker build. Got it? So here I'm using run mvn package, correct? So when did I run this command, like this mvn package? During the build time, right? Using Docker build command.
Yes.
Okay. So for example, if I just inspect that image, inspect that test image that I created. And if I just go back to CMD, what is CMD here? Some MVN. What is the entry point here? Some entry point dot sh, they said something else. So what is the overall command? So it is entry point space that MVN. So does this make any sense? No, right?
No.
So did I set CMD and entry point? No. So from where a CMD and entry point are coming? They are coming from the base image. Got it? So will I use this base image CMD and entry point once I customize? No. So I'll use my own CMD and entry point. So if I use CMD and entry point as the instructions, so those will replace the default CMD from the base image.
Okay.
Clear? So
Yes.
this run will only run during the build time. Just don't say this will run when I start the container, because I haven't decided CMD and entry point yet.
Okay.
Okay. So that is run. So run, you can run anything. So let's say, for example, you have to install some package on top of Ubuntu. So I'm just writing something of from scratch like this from Ubuntu. Let's say I want to install something on top of Ubuntu. Let's say I want to install Nginx. Okay, so I would use apt install Nginx like this. That's it. So what this will do, it will take the base image, install Nginx, and then it will package my this as an image. That's it. This run instruction will not run if I start my new customized image, because this is only till build time. Okay, now coming to the best practices. Can I have multiple run instructions? So let's say I did so let's switch to a different one. I'll just comment it out. Okay, so let's say I wanted to install Nginx. So first I'll do apt update, then I will do Nginx. So let's say I have multiple such instructions. Okay. So is it a best practice to have multiple run instructions? No, the reason is because every run instructions will add an extra layer to your image. So this will try to increase the size of the Docker image. Okay. So what you should do is you need to club all the run instructions into a single line. Okay. So like, run apt update and then and apt install nginx and something like this. Okay, so multiple run instructions can be clubbed into a single line. So the reason why I used double end is, so if this command fails, it won't go to the other instructions. Okay, it is logical and. Okay, so let's say I don't want logical and let's say I can put logical or like this, which means even if apt update command fails, it will go to apt install. Even if it fails, it will go to the next instruction. Got it? Clear?
Can we use
You know,
colon like we use in Linux?
You can also use colon. You can also put like this also.
So this is or and this is just or, right?
Yeah, it is just or apt and it is or something like this.
we
Okay.
can get these commands in script as well, right? Then
Sorry?
we we can get these commands in script as well in a separate folder.
So if you have a shell script, let's say I have a shell script here. So let's say I said setup.sh. Okay. So first, so let me just write something inside it. Okay. I don't care whatever it is.
Then we have to make sure this
I
also
have to
has.
make sure it is copied using copy instruction. Okay. And then I'll simply execute it. Okay. So how do I execute it is sh setup.sh. Correct. But the thing is, I might also have to change the executable permission, right? So then I would do change mod all plus x setup.sh, and then I will run it like this.
Okay.
Okay.
And what if like bash is not there, shell is not present in our image? Then we have to
Then you need to go for an image that has shell. So the reason why you are using shell script is because that base image has shell.
and there's no other way to add bash within the
You
normal.
can add, you can use it with package manager and all, but that doesn't make sense, right?
Okay.
Because that will increase the size unnecessarily. So why not find an image which already has bash? See, again, it is, you need to try a lot. Like you can take images or you can add bash on top of it and see which one is lesser in size. Then you should go with that.
So if I'm, let's say if I'm using Maven here and I just used apt install some package, but apt is an Ubuntu. I'm not sure Maven is built on Ubuntu, right? How do I know the base image, base OS of Maven?
Base OS of Maven.
Maven. I
So
mean,
you need to see, you need to inspect the Maven and see probably in what do you say? Here itself, they would have given what package manager it is there. So if I go to this overview,
or Python maybe.
see here.
Okay. Documentation. Okay.
So Maven also has Alpine version. For Alpine, APK is the package manager. Okay. And also they will tell you, see, to minimize image size, it is uncommon to have Git or Bash to be included in Alpine. So they're clearly saying if you're opting for Maven Alpine tag, you will not have Git and Bash. Okay. So they're saying it is based on Debian. So then you should use Debian based package manager. Sometimes even without referring to this documentation, what I can do is I can simply use apt or yum and see whether it is successful or not, right?
Yeah, or we
Trial
can
and error.
log in and check one also before you.
Yeah, you can also do that. Okay.
What is that -c syntax for run? I mean, two types of syntax on the PPT or two forms.
So I'll come to it. Okay, so there are actually two forms, for run. So one is the normal shell form and the other is the executable form. So mostly you will not, follow the syntax for run, but you will follow the syntax for, what do you say, for the CMD and entry point. Okay. So let's say, if I'm trying to run something known as a ping localhost. So what will happen to this command is it will not directly run a ping localhost. So it will try to start the shell and then it will run ping localhost. Okay. So the ideal way is to directly invoke the ping binary, that is /bin/ping, by putting it in the executable form. So executable form will be in the form of an array like this. So bin by ping, okay, comma, and all the other arguments that you wanted to give. So they should be part of like this. Okay. So for example, let's say you want to what do you want to, I have no other examples. Let me try to get it from here. Okay, so let's say this hello world is there. Okay, so I just have to use echo hello. Okay, so this is something I pasted. I could have just written like this, right? Echo hello,
Yes.
correct? So this is on a shell form because this particular instructions will be executed by first starting the shell. Okay, so what if shell is not there? Then it will fail. So in this case, what you have to do is you have to invoke the echo binary directly by converting it into the executable form like this. So this doesn't actually start the bash. It will directly invoke the echo binary and then pass hello as the argument to that binary. Got it?
Even this also will be executed on
Even
the
this
right?
also, but this also is an executable form. But here you're executing bash and then giving echo hello as the arguments.
I mean,
Okay.
slash echo will be also usually executed on,
This will
right?
also execute. This will also execute. Let me prove it.
No, no, on the shell, right? I mean, slash bin slash echo will be also
It
near.
will also be shell. Okay. So in fact, I'll also run echo hello. I think these won't be shown directly on the log if I directly run it. Okay, if you see it, it did not show us anything. Okay. So which is, see, it failed last time. I think when we tried to do MVN, it failed, right? This one. Last time it failed. So this time, here it is there. See, you can't see here because it is directly trying to print hello, the same hello every time. But when it is CMD and entry point, because those are ever running processes, so we will see which processes it has started. Okay. So for executable form, how many process it has started, for normal shell form, how many processes it has started. So there you will understand the shell and executable form. So for now, you don't have to worry about understanding shell and all. So whenever you have a requirement, you directly start giving that command after the run instructions. Don't use that array form and all. It's not required. Okay. Any questions, guys? Okay, so now a simple best practice here. So when you have run instructions, multiple run instructions, don't use them like this. Okay, so this will add extra layers to the image. So the best thing is you just club multiple run instructions into a single run instruction like this. Okay, so these backslashes are to indicate the new lines. You can put it in a single line also. Okay, so one instruction, double line, the other instruction like that. So this is a good practice because this is just going to add a single layer. Okay, clear?
Yes, Vikram.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So we have, I think, another 5 to 6 instructions, and post that. So we have a new topic. Okay, so which is newly introduced. I think it is 6 months or 1 year back. They have this new concept known as build kit, build X, and builders. Okay, so this will be pretty interesting. But we have to see CMD, entry point, and other instructions. Okay.
Vikram, one to put out. So in copy command, and the source, if I have python.py to copy which is in the present directory, I will use python.py. If my python.py is present in some different directory, let's say like where log python.py, which is not in the present build context, I can still use the copy command like copy where log.
No, ideally it is not suggested. So I tried to copy files like that, but
It will not work, or
it will
it's
not, I think it will not even copy. So I have this Docker file, I think just, before this directory. So I have Dockerfile -git. Okay. I can show you. So if you see, we are in Scratch, but I have Dockerfile -add outside it. Okay. I'm just going one step back if you see,
yes.
right? Now let's try to build it. See, it says failed to compute cache and something Dockerfile add not found.
It
Okay.
should be in the same directory then.
It should be in the same directory. The reason why I'm saying it is in same directory because basically you'll be writing a project within a directory and then you'll be writing the Docker files to containerize within the same directory. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you need to copy something from the internet, it is better to use add command so that you can directly clone from a repository.
Yeah, I was looking like when we actually build it on some way in the remote, like let's say Jenkins, and it went to some remote system, and the actual configuration present in some other directory
No,
where.
why it will be there in some other directory? It will be there in your Git repository that Jenkins will clone. Inside
I'm
that only you have the Docker file.
okay.
Inside that only you'll have if configurations are in a separate repository,
Okay.
okay, you just add it, using add statement.
Okay. Okay. And
Okay.
whether the build command has anything to do with my OS architecture, I mean x86 or ARM.
So this is also there. This is also a part of our, series, which will come after 3-4 days.
Okay.
That is
Because
multi-platform images. That also I'm going to teach.